Hello everyone, welcome back to the Brightworks. Today, taking a look at a fun little game on Tempest version 3. Sorry about the little jumps there, still loading into this game. Nice and fresh off the skillet, and I'm super excited to take a look at this map. We don't see this map very often, but it is an absolute banger. We've got some really interesting stuff here. We've got these little outlying islands. Oh, sorry, let me clear that map for you there. There we go. Now we're looking real professional, real tidy. You can see that there's these sort of outlying islands, and I believe bots can walk around on this sort of shallow water here, and vehicles can trudge through it as well. But ships, of course, can float through there just as well. So you kind of have this interesting naval-land hybrid battlefield over here. And then, of course, you also have this big open trench area right in the middle of the map. If I kind of do this, you can see it's very deep water there for boats to trespass on, which is really quite nice, because that means that we also get to see some naval play. And then along the sides here, we see two straits. Very, very narrow passageways here for one or two players to contest at a time, meaning that we have a nice spread of different positions here. Speaking of positions here, why don't we meet our players for this match? Spawning in the northern half, our red team leader, we have Vanaja. Yeah, that's risque. We're gonna be really careful when we talk about Vanaja. Oh yeah, really tricky one there. Also, special mention to Dolphy is Lobster. Not sure if this is the real Dolphy, the Dolphy himself. Pretty popular streamer and a longtime player of this game. One of the first people that ever taught me how to play this game. So whenever I see a Dolphy in the chat, I'm always excited to see it. But spawning in the southern hemisphere, we have Mango Nectar. And we've seen Mango Nectar in a couple of replays here, always some fun stuff, and they are spawning in a bit of a backline position here. They have Don't Panic frontlining for them, so they're going to be nice and well protected, well in theory anyway. They're going to be nice and protected in this backline, and they're probably going to be able to tech up quite nicely. We're moving the commander out, so we're not going to use the commander for the metal. This is after the balance patch, so those commanders are only worth 1,250 metal as opposed to their previous 2,000 metal. So yeah, I guess I like the idea of using the commander more to gather metal and use it more actively, I guess, rather than sacrificing it. I like that quite a bit more than I would have previously here. But anyway, Mango Nectar are going to be moving the commander up. Looks like, wow, Shigaru has already... Did Shigaru spawn up there? Oh, okay. Yeah, it looks like Shigaru just spawned all the way up here. And we are just, yeah, we're just going to lock down these islands here. This is really dangerous because, of course, if the naval players get anything out, they're going to be sending it across to harass you. But if you manage to hold on to it, it's a tremendous amount of metal here. Speaking of which, let's take a look at the metal depositions. We have 1.4 on this node. Oh, wow, that's a 3.7. So it looks like we've got some high contest areas. Yeah, you can see there's a 3.7 here. Looking around. A few key spots to contest here, but for the most part, a lot of them are relatively low, 1.4. So interesting. This is almost a hybrid map between the ones where you have to very specifically contest very specific choke points. Whoever can hold that is going to have a tremendous advantage. And a hybrid of the ones where you have to claim a huge area, and I guess that's going to be interesting to see. Just this angle a little lower. Feels like I'm at a bit too high of a top-down angle. Will you share a few of these mechs when you get to them? Dark Dilbert going to be in charge of claiming up a bunch of these metal extractors here. Don't Panic doing a good job of securing a forward position. Yeah, we might as well deny these metal extractors up here since we're already pushed so far forward. This incisor is being used almost like a scout, and we're just taking a look at it. The pawns jump on top of it. Say, no trespassing, sir. And they run away. Someone was explaining to me in the comments. They actually, it was more than an explanation. It was like it was a complete recap of the Total Annihilation lore. I think it was the Total Annihilation lore. Anyway, the lore to one of the games that predecessed this, and apparently in that lore, the Armada faction. Well, I guess you should start from a top-down level. These robots are like basically robots that have just been fighting for millennia, and they no longer, like at one point they were human robots, but now they just no longer serve anyone except themselves, and they're just designed to fight. And then apparently the Cortex are, it was two like political factions or something, and there was the people who believe that they should upload their memories to computers, and basically they should try and live forever as computers. And so the robots fighting for the Cortex side are these digitally uploaded personas of people inside of these robots here. Ooh, nice D-gun. Very nicely done. Great job, Shigaru. And so every Cortex bot or vehicle or whatever that you see is like these digital constructs of people. Apparently Cortex, or apparently Armada rather, supposedly they believe in free will and sentience and not abandoning your mortality. And so what they do, much more ethical, apparently is clone people. They make these clones of bodies and stick them inside of these robots to control them. Yeah, so we've got a bunch of like human clones running around inside of robots and a bunch of digital personas controlling these robots here. Which is hilarious because when I first started this game, I think I've talked about this in like old videos, and I wouldn't blame you for skipping those ones. Some of them are quite atrocious, but I talked about how I had this like fan theory of these robots being these AI that were just set to attack each other, you know, millennia ago, and the war that they once fought for has long since been gone, but they continue to wage war here. And it turns out I wasn't totally wrong about that. It was just much more grim than I originally thought. Anyway, maybe we should focus on this match. Frog Skull has got a bunch of hovercraft out, which is quite interesting. Hovercraft versus Navy is sort of an odd lineup, but for now, at the very least, we're doing a really good job of keeping up the pressure. We've got some hover tanks out to shoot down some of these gunboats. We've got the Seekers out to aid in that as well. This little dance for moving the units in circles here. Yeah, Frog Skull realizes, wait a minute, what are we doing here? Let's just stand here and punch each other in the face like men. We'll just do this the proper way. It'll be fine. And all is well. Mango Nectar has made tremendous progress on these islands, pushing very far forward with the commander. I love to see that. We have enough build power back here. We're using our resources, sending or spending whatever we need to. Looking very nice for the blue player back here. Meanwhile, on this right-hand side, Venos, it's almost like Vanos. Anybody remember Vanos Gaming? That's still a popular channel, right? I don't know. I used to watch that all the time when I would get home from school. Venos over here, pushing forward with some of these Rocketeers. Decent option. Always going to be really good for sieging these forward positions. You do need some sort of scout with this, though, so I'd love to see a couple ticks or maybe some pawns or something, maybe a radar tower on the forward line. Anything just to give a little bit more vision to these Rocketeers, help them out a little bit more. The left-hand lane for the blue team is much further pushed in here. You can see Dolphy's Lobster is building up a nice little army, and we do have a Centurion leading the charge. We have three more bad brothers coming up here. And we're thinking about getting some reclaim out to the field. That's really nice since we're starting to tech into these expensive units. Be really nice to resurrect these, or at the very least get whatever you can salvage out of their corpses back on your side. Dolphy may be thinking about moving the commander forward, these new beefy commanders. It's like 25% healthier or something like that. It's an extra 650 health relative to whatever it was beforehand. But they do not take damage, or they don't take as much damage from light laser turrets, so that's quite nice. Commander is much more able to push into these big fortified positions like this and break them down. Really nicely done. Took down a bunch of those riot tanks, which were really the biggest threat here. Oh, don't panic moving forward. We need to see these Centurions split. Losing those to a single D-gun would be absolutely tragic. One of them goes down. Okay, Commander down to 61%. Dolphy is down to 36%. So a little bit of a sparring match there. Not sure who traded better, although I think Dolphy's army is looking a little bit tougher, at least at the moment. What's going on in the naval field? We are making sure to contest this central area here. These are just assault frigates, so these cannot contest the commander. One thing that I absolutely love to see is when you use the capture command. So you move the commander underneath a ship and you capture it. You don't let it slip. And you can actually do some hilarious stuff with that. You can also capture metal extractors. I mean, you could just build it too. Well, no reason not to do that, but capturing it is a little less expensive for you. You know, make your enemy spend the resources, and then you get to reap all the benefit. Why not? That capture command is really underutilized. It's like one of the most powerful abilities the commander has. And it's, yeah, we don't see it used very often. Is T2 being handed out by the two backline tech players here. We're going to another T1 air lab. That's interesting. We already have a T2 constructor here that I'm guessing was just handed right over from Chusei. Somehow a couple of pawns have snuck through to the back line here. Not even sure what path they could have taken to get over there, but it looks like they've actually been on a little bit of a tirade, going around, destroying economy centers wherever they can find them. Will eventually get taken down by some aggravators and some grunts. Those digital constructs blowing up the organic corpses tied to the machine frames of these Armada units. Man, it's so grimdark. Suddenly this funny little game with these cute little robots waddling along. Yeah, suddenly it's become very Warhammer 40k all of a sudden. A huge standing army here for Dark Dilbert. I think it's time we move these in. At the very least, we start probing the defensive lines here. We certainly could use the aggravators to tear apart some of these light laser defenses. Always a very nice touch. Get that artillery on the front line. We're just producing more and more of these Centurion, using these as a sort of forward shock unit. I guess this is a decent option, especially against these vehicles too. They're very tanky, they can put out a lot of laser fire all at once. Yeah, definitely an interesting decision. A lot to learn from that. Are we resurrecting, or are we... Oh, we're going to repair first. Okay, interesting. Yeah, keep these units alive if you can. Best case scenario, your units stay alive. Middle case scenario, you have to resurrect them. And worst case scenario, you just reclaim the metal. Which of course isn't a bad case, right? It's nice when you can reclaim. Oh, look at that pro level micro. We're shuffling the damaged one to the back here. Don't think it'll matter. Oh, that was a little further forward than I thought it was. Don't panic. Being bold with the commander. Commander may be more resistant to those light laser turrets, but it is still prone to being exploded by units. Submarines here to counter the gunboats. Not a bad idea, except for that the gunboats can outpace the submarines by quite a bit. So as long as those submarines keep on moving, keep on grooving, or rather the gunboats keep on moving and keep on grooving, everything is going to be a-okay here. Did we capture this destroyer, or did we bring this out? I'm not sure exactly. Oh. There's an enemy destroyer out. It is slowly whittling away the commander here. I think it knows that there's something underneath there. It's launching its depth charge launchers. Oh, this boat is in a whole lot of trouble. Commander's in a lot of trouble too. Now that there's nothing that can be done about saving this. Although luckily this submarine is pushing back a whole lot of this army here. Oh, the destroyer was sniped. I think it was probably just sniped by a torpedo from this here submarine. So that is really nicely done. Oh, get out of there. Submarines have passive regeneration. That's interesting. Did not know that. Again, the commander is in a tremendous amount of trouble. Destroyer keeps pushing forward and dropping these depth charges to keep seeking out the commander. Cute little bombs, but they do a lot of damage. Oh, if we pull the commander out of the water, it's going to get shot by the long-range cannons, though. So that's not great either. Tough decision, but yeah, I think just going for a lot of destroyers is probably the right one. I think we actually could spare more build power here. Yeah, we've got the energy, we've got the metal, although we do need a little bit more energy production, so we should probably keep growing that. Tidal production is 18, but wind production is up to 25, which is absolutely insane. We're actually going to go up to 25 right now? Wow, talk about good timing. Okay. Whoa, huge push of hover tanks over here. Some of these heavy assault hover tanks, the Halberd. Armada has... Ooh, sorry about that. A little bit of yard work going on. Might have to pause this recording. I'll tell you what, I'll cut right here, and I'll be back as soon as that is finished up. Alrighty, sorry about that. Let's just resume the play here, and we will get this back underway. Reminding myself, it's been about, I don't know, an hour or so since that old debauchery. Looks like we've got hover tanks in the back line, and they're absolutely ravaging orange and red here. Who was that? Firm Communist and Vanaja are both under quite a bit of duress. Luckily, there's some shurikens brought out from the back line to paralyze these and keep them from doing any more damage. Damage is already done, though, and so for at least the time being, Firm Communist is going to be set back quite a ways. No production structures here, so Scoop Town or an... I cannot say this. Light blue player and our Seafoam player here all are going to have a slightly easier time on the Navy. Excellent play bringing those hover tanks out. That's definitely something I always forget about. It's those super, super powerful assault hover tanks for the Cortex faction. Armada does not have anything to really parallel that. Seekers are out here. Hope my audio hasn't changed too much. Sorry, I'll recline back in my position. I was leaning forward. I've noticed there's a huge difference in my audio when I lean forward versus when I lean backwards. The blue team is looking absolutely dominative here. Huge presence on the map. I mean, just units galore all over the place. But there is quite a bit of tech in the backline here. We do have a T2 bot lab out, 2 fusion reactors, tons of energy being converted as well. So we have lots and lots of metal every second funneling in here for Chise. At the moment, we're only spending it on a anti-nuke, which does mean that when it's time to produce our next tech structure, we're going to have plenty in the bank in order to do it. Hounds are out now, and that's really nice. Whoops. Just controlled the camera there. Hounds are out, and that's really nice because they can, well, they can siege those units quite a bit further of range here. Centurion range, let's see here, 330 versus the Hound, 650. Now the Hound can only see out to 400, so the Hound relies on radar or radar bots or scout units, something like that, in order to actually fire at that tremendous range. So it's really important that we include that into our composition here. But that shouldn't be a problem whatsoever. We just make some cheap units and throw them in there. I'd love to see some Rascals mixed in just for that vision. Just going to help out ever so slightly here. These Shurikens are actually becoming quite a nuisance. Shurikens plus Navy can actually be really devastating. We see the red player here has started to produce units again. We're actually going to tech up to a T2 lab. That's quite nice. Meanwhile, the orange player is just focusing on rebuilding their economy basically from scratch here. We're sucking up metal off the seafloor. The red player is anyway. Orange player is building a little bit of static defense, but also we're just trying to build some more energy production on the back of that as well. Really nicely done. Try to build back into this game. For the blue team, neither of these players has gone to T2, so we're still in the T1 era, although the Seafoam player has a lab, or a shipyard rather, and a hovercraft platform. Which does mean that we have a little bit more diverse of an army here. We have a few more capabilities than the enemy as far as traversal across land at the very least. We do have an air player back here, Black Onyx, going to be going for some air shenanigans. Although, yeah, we started up this lab and then we never finished it. I wasn't really even sure. Oh no, this is the T2 lab. I apologize. We had a T1 lab back here. I reckon that was probably an accident, and then we started up the T2 lab shortly after. Getting some units out on the field, that's always nice. We are upscaling the build power, which is also really important here. Yeah, get that build power up, crank it nice and high, and then we're going to be able to pump out a whole bunch of units, send them to the front lines, and that is going to be really helpful to break these massive siege lines. Wow, look at this. Look at this beautiful line right here. Have you ever seen a line so beautiful? Look at that. Row of Rocketeers, a row of Janisses, a row of missile trucks, and then a row of artillery. The only thing we're missing here is some sort of an assault unit, like tanks up in the front or something like that, in order to provide us with a little HP shield. We do have the tanks, actually. They just need to be moved up. Yeah, I would be absolutely mortified if I had to push into this here. This looks absolutely devastating. We are going to start teching up. In fact, we're almost done teching up to T2 stage here for Venus. And Venus doing a good job of upgrading all the stuff back here as well. We've got a T2 constructor likely handed over from a player back here because this is a Armada constructor, or it's a bot constructor rather, and we have vehicles out. So I'm guessing that's what it was. Although I guess there is Rocketeers in the front line, so maybe we were bots at one point and we switched to vehicles. Either way, we have a T2 constructor in the back line upgrading every one of these metal extractors, and it's going to be kicking their efficiency up a whole notch. Really nice. Backline blue going up for an advanced fusion reactor. Tons of metal in the bank. Wow. Yeah, we could really scale some build power back here. I saw a widget the other day in the widgets section of the Discord saying that there was a widget for turning your build turrets to make them automatically build other build turrets whenever one is queued within their radius. So in this situation, they would build the build power before they would build the next building, and I thought that was kind of an interesting widget. I'll have to give that a try sometime. Looks like the hovercraft were thinking about getting annoying here, but we are up to these T2 ships, and that is a T2 battleship, the Despot. Really, really powerful stuff here. This line has been pushed back quite a lot. Gunslingers actually able to shoot up into the air and hit some of these shurikens. It's kind of a weird interaction. Doesn't seem like they should be able to do that, but they certainly can. Oh, and some snipers are brought out. So eventually those snipers are going to be well enough to tear down these gunslingers. It's basically the perfect counter of these gunslingers because they do heal over time, which is it does mean that you want to get them in and out of combat as much as possible. But with sharpshooters, yeah, they just blow you up in one shot. More and more naval battles out here. We do see these submarines firing into the fog of war here, trying to attack each other. Those ones will be retreating. The battleships here trying to do their very best to push forward. That heavy laser on there is really, really damaging. Very powerful stuff, those heavy laser turrets. We do have loads of units to try and stop this, though. Destroyers here. Those missile corvettes. Some hover tanks. We've also got anti-air hover tanks, which is really nice. You can tell this team is traumatized by those by those shuriken that were harassing down the Navy. Yep, that's absolutely a sign of that. We have Sheldon here, shelling away as they were often one to do against these hounds. Very nicely done, and I did notice we have a nuclear bomber out. Where's that gone? I've lost track of it now. Ah, there it is. Taking a rest here. We're actually going to get a second one out here very shortly. We are already up to a advanced fusion reactor, so that is quite nice. We're starting up the energy converters over here too. Very, very nice to see. And yeah, we've got 2 nuclear bombers, and the question is, what are we going to do with them? We don't have any scouts out yet, so I think that'd probably be the next thing to queue. Wow, 10 nuclear bombers coming up. It's quite a lot. I'd love to see some scouting before we use nuclear bombers. Those are definitely very expensive, and you want to get an absolute most value per attack that you can out of those things. Target anywhere with little to no anti-air, and make sure you get these really important structures. Structures like advanced fusion reactors tucked in the back line here. Not a whole lot of anti-air defense. The blue team has not actually been harassed. Aside from these naval players, they haven't been harassed too much by any bombing or anything like that. No aerial play. So at least for the time being, their air screen is actually relatively weak here. This whole army is just bundled together, and it can't actually keep itself in a nice organized row. Oh, there's a Tsar here too, doing tons of AoE damage. What was once a tremendously terrifying force here is now reduced to a heap of smoldering metal welded to the floor of the crust of the world here. Yeah, really good stuff. Those Tsars, man, they are so powerful. Absolutely eradicating this T1 stuff. Even that T2, you saw that Mauser just went up to a single shot from this Tsar here. Super powerful tank. Sheldon eventually managed to bring it down, but at the cost of this entire army here. Yeah, we're eating up this T2 lab. We're going to try and salvage it. Oh, we don't manage to eat it all in one bite. It's kind of hard to do. We pull a little bit of metal out of it, but we definitely don't get it all. The counterattack is on here. We have a bunch of hero ticks moving forward, and they do find some snipers. A bunch of them get promoted to Gold Star Generals for that. And yeah, they actually managed to do good work here. They shut down those snipers by getting in the way. And now this army is going to be continuing the pressure here. We're starting up a tick spam. We have tons of units marching forward. Loads of these gunslingers. Really, really nice to see. Very, very versatile unit. Especially in the early mid-game, getting a gunslinger out can be really, really powerful. Just because they can dip in and out of fights so effectively, it makes it so that they can get tremendous value, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. You can see the way they heal. Every once in a while, their health ticks back up. And the more they dip and dive in and out of combat, the more range they get, the more damage they get. Basically, all the normal things that robots get for experience, except they just get a whole lot more of it. Oh, don't cluster the shurikens. Oh, that was really close there. 1 or 2 shots had landed on those shurikens that would have been really bad. The gunslingers are not tremendous at taking out these shurikens, but they will get them eventually. I guess not. There's just barely enough shurikens to keep them paralyzed. Although not all of them. And eventually, one by one, they will become unparalyzed. And now the time of the shuriken has passed. Something exploded over there. Probably a Fat Boy's shot. Maybe a Banisher shot. Either way, huge chain reaction. Bunch of units going down here. Oh, Tumbleweed was mixed into the army composition, and so this entire base falls to a bunch of these gunslingers. Rootin' tootin', cowboy shooting gunslingers here. Pushing forward. Really rare unit to see, the gunslingers. We just don't see them very often. Man, when they come out, they show us just how dangerous they can be. Doing a ton of damage to T2 as well. Look how quickly they dismantle these hounds. It's 2 or 3 shots from those. And they fire quick, too. Relatively quick, anyways. Friendly fire doesn't even matter to them. We'll just shake it off, heal up, feel good as new. T1 units, even more of a joke against these guys. Even because the damage that they do is going to be mitigated by the healing effect, eventually. It's really frustrating to fight against gunslingers because when you finally manage to jump on top of them, they'll just back away from you, doing tons of damage, and then the next time you engage, they're all back up to full health. And it's so upsetting, so frustrating to do. There's also a little bit of impulse to their attacks. Gauss impulse guns, yeah. So they stun the units that they shoot at a little bit here. I'm not sure if that applies to aircraft. That would seem a little bit silly, but definitely to the ground vehicles. And now the northern part of the map is completely swept away. While we were focused on that, there's a huge push down south here. We have a couple of assault frigates and then 2 of these massive battleships pushing forward. As well as a cruiser, the Buccaneer, going to be firing its multiple laser arrays into the enemy here, tearing them down really quickly. Tremendous firepower here. And you can see the amount of devastation that these battleships can wrought. Oh, some hover tanks, the Cataphract, are out now, and they're going to be doing some good work. Serpent's out. The long-range battle submarine. That's actually a really good choice here. Can definitely do a ton of damage. We see torpedo hits for, that was 16%, I think, per torpedo. Yeah, these battle submarines are really powerful. Definitely the ultimate late game unit for the submersible warfare part of this map, anyway. Commander is underwater here trying to self-destruct underneath these battleships. Ooh, it doesn't get it. That must be the new commander damage range fall off there, because I swear that would have killed those beforehand. I was almost certain that was going to kill those battleships, and it actually barely even scratched them. Excuse me. Huh, interesting. That's something to consider. Previously, detonating your commander underneath a bunch of flagships was a relatively good option for dealing with them. Now I'm going to have to consider that a little bit less of an option. Yeah, that's interesting. Something I hadn't considered before. Learn something new every day. Whoa, we really did go up to 10 nuclear bombers. 9 at the very least. And they're moving forward. They're on hold fire, so they're just, they're choosing whatever targets they can. Overkill. Overkill in every sense of the word here for that many nuclear bombers, but yeah, I think if we can get a scout plane out here and there, that would be really tremendous. Tango Poro definitely has an idea for what their strategy is that they're going for. That's really good to see. Something just chain reacted over here. I'm not sure exactly what fired there. What did a bunch of damage right there, but there are tons of units. Looks like the gunslingers were eventually mopped up. I see a bunch of corpses back here, as well as a dead commander, so it looks like it cost quite a bit in order to take them down. But we do have resbots getting getting hard at work, getting hard to work. Gotta keep doing that. Putting all that stuff back together. Very nice. Scooptown, moving forward with some hounds, trying to tear down a little bit of this defensive line. You find a couple of these Dragon's Maw, the pop-up flamethrower turrets. Yeah, this push down south has not stopped. Commander trying desperately to beam these down, but that underwater laser is not super powerful, and it is taking hits from the depth charge launcher here and there. Luckily, the commander stays alive, doesn't wipe out all of this, but now Red has a tremendous presence in the water. More and more of these T2 ships are coming up. We have tons of metal, tons of energy. We're actually only slacking on build power here. I would love to see more of that pumped out. Could definitely be quite tremendous. Blue has now actually switched into Marauder production. That's quite interesting. We've gone through the tech tiers incredibly fast here. Mango Nectar showing off their teching skills. We're producing Marauders while we're teching up to T2 aircraft in the backline, while we're building an advanced fusion reactor. Absolute mad lad here. If I had to guess, yeah, we funded all this using the base back here. All this was eaten up and fed back into the army, which is really nicely done. So much efficiency. These gunslingers need to spread out and they need to concave on top of this. I think you got to push in here. You can always back off with the gunslingers, but you have to commit one way or another. You don't want to stay on a extended front line engagement. You either want to be pushing or retreating with those gunslingers. In theory, the gunslingers have like nearly infinite value. you can just put them in combat and then back them off as soon as they get low health, and you can get crazy high value for them, which is really interesting. You see the Marauders marching forward though, and these are much more difficult to deal with. These are a proper T3 unit. You can tell by just how much health they have, just how quickly they can move, and just how much damage per second they can put out. Really devastating unit. Absolutely crippling. LRPC trying its very best to line up a shot here, but it moves so slowly. It's got that massive cannon to counterbalance. Whoa! Tons of snipers fire all at once, tear down a bunch of these Marauders. Luckily, there was enough units here to deal with them. I think if a few had snuck around back here, though, it could have been a whole lot worse. So it was very lucky for that red team that did not happen. Meanwhile, whoa! Where'd everyone go? Everyone's gone. Yeah, it looks like there was a massive push through the right-hand side. Sorry about that I missed it. I was busy focusing on the Marauder play. Meanwhile, there was a tremendous push over here. We do have T3 units to try and repel the remaining forces, but we've already wiped 2 players completely off the face of the map. Excellently done here. I have to imagine it was those nuclear bombers and probably maybe a bunch of these gunships and tons of T2 units coming out of Bear Juice and Tango Poirot. Really nicely done, you two. Sorry I missed it there. Yeah, we've entered an interesting split map situation, right? We're now looking at this map from quite an interesting angle. It almost has turned into a east versus west scenario here. Wow, Cataphract's actually doing a ton of damage to these gunships. That's an unlikely counter. Did not expect to see that today. Karganeth also shooting their anti-air rockets to bring down the rest of these gunship. Yeah, that actually worked out surprisingly well. Tons of damage back here, but luckily the advanced fusion reactors remained intact, and so, at least for the time being, our energy infrastructure is still in place. Metal is crippled, though. We're down to, wow, just 2 metal per second. Tango Poro says nuke coming. Are we building it, or is it charging? It's charging. Okay, we're actually almost ready for a nuke. And that could hit pretty hard. Yeah, we have no anti-nuke whatsoever for the blue team here. Marauders are pushing it up north, and the snipers are desperately trying to get back into position to counteract this. Snipers firing away, but the Marauders, they move so quickly. They can jump into your base just as fast as you could say Marauder. And look at that. They tear it down almost as quickly. Well, they're getting dangerously close to the economy centers here. Blow up the energy converters. They just weren't focused. If they had focused on one thing or another instead of trying to do it all, I think they definitely could have done a whole lot more damage there. Could have been tremendous. Nuke comes down here right in Green's base, and that is going to be enough to finish off that player's economy for good. We're down to 56 energy production, 4 metal extractor production here. Not even sure where that metal is coming from. Some unknown source somewhere around the map here. There's a metal extractor right here. 4 metal extractor production, 4 metal extractor production. Not even sure where that metal is coming from. Some unknown source somewhere around the map here. There's a metal extractor right here. 4 metal extractor production, 4 metal extractor production. Not even sure where that metal is coming from. There's a metal extractor right here. Yeah, that hurts quite a bit. I pity the fool who makes a fool out of me. Made a fool out of by a nuclear explosion. Who wouldn't be, though? It's hard to survive one of those. Definitely a tricky thing to do, for sure. One of the things ever, if I had to say so myself. Oh, these Marauders are in the back line again, though. They blow up this fusion reactor. Are they going to chain react all these? No, these aren't too thick. It takes two of them to chain react with each other, so luckily they didn't chain react off each other here. But every push is getting a little bit further into this back line, and it's becoming quite a problem. Nuclear bombers are over on the northern side here. These Marauders do have an anti-air, so they can at the very least scratch out these nuclear bombers, but they're definitely not going to shut them down anytime quickly. These fighters, however, could definitely do it. Are these T1? These are T1 fighters. I guess definitely is a strong word. They will eventually do it. It's probably the right one. Oh, tons of them going down here. Tons of bombers, I mean. Loads of anti-air here. SAM turrets, T1 anti-air. Where, yeah, we didn't get very much value out of those bombers at all. That's really unfortunate to see. I think a scout would definitely be in order here. Could definitely make this a whole lot easier to hold. Hovercraft actually moving forward. We're still seeing the Seekers brought out, and I love to see people still being aggressive with those light units or late into the game here. Ticks are swarming into the base, and they've wasted all of the sniper shots, which is absolutely crucial to making sure that these Marauders can push forward with a much easier time. And push forward with a much easier time they do. Tons of them looking extremely healthy here. I'd love to see them split up a little bit more to you know, allow them all to fire simultaneously. But it doesn't matter, as all those energy converters get lit up in the back line here, and now there is basically no production for the hot pink player. The blue Marauders have won the day as they push back here. Wow, very nicely done. Are they gonna get the fusion reactor? I think they will. Oh, it's looking pretty low. And indeed, the pink fusion reactors light up like a Christmas tree, and now the only bastions of technology are the red player swimming in the sea and the brown player up north, chilling like a villain. Shouldn't take long before these players are dismantled, but they do still both have sizable armies here. Start building out north. Interesting. A lot of arrows pointing in this direction. For what it's worth, I think that's actually the right idea, because this entire eastern section has been completely cleared on the map, and so we can definitely start sending units around this way and continuing to harass. Almost looping back here, you can see. Oh wow, I must have missed it, but there was apparently a push that came through here. All of the economy for blue has been ravaged, but the production remains. Blue has his own nuclear bombers in the back line. Maybe saving those to end the game with. Tons of these cruisers coming out here. The Buccaneer, it's the counter to the Paladin. The Armada faction, that is. I pity the fool being sure to eat up as much of this metal as possible, trying their very best to get back into this game. Really hard to do, though. I mean, we need to see more reclaim happening here if we're going to fund a fusion reactor, build power, units, all that good stuff. Suddenly everyone's feeling very shy. Oh, I don't know. Maybe we should push. Maybe. We'll consider it. Think about it a little bit. I just realized I had my phone right underneath the microphone. Hope that didn't buzz in your ear. This has been a rough one. Thanks very much for bearing through with it if you made it this far. This has been an interesting one. A lot of stuff going on outside, behind the scenes. Pulling back the curtains, if you will. But we'll close those up again and we'll take a look at this red army. These Buccaneers, of course, are going to devastate this back line here. Basically no units out for the Seaphone player, Frog Skull here. And so these Buccaneers are going to readily tear apart this base just as quickly as they can. Commander was found over here. It blows up, taking down a couple of those Buccaneers, but there's still plenty of them to continue to ravage the seas. And at this point, the red team has completely won the oceans. I pity the fool does have a couple of cataphracts up and available, but there are some battleships pushing them away, which is really nicely done here. Using them to harass down the naval economy here, that is really nice. These do have a depth charge launcher, which is kind of interesting. It can mean that they can do quite a lot of damage. Tons of Hornets coming out here. Really nicely done. We're starting up a big array of Hornets, and these can do a tremendous amount of damage. They're basically meant for bursting down these T3 units. That's their specialty, is getting through that thick armor of these units here. We are on 2 fusion reactors with 8 energy converters, giving us about 80 metal a second on top of whatever else we can pump out of the ground. So that's really nice. We do have units moving down south, though. Very nicely done to split up the forces here. Sometimes it's really difficult to see. It's really difficult to focus on that big picture here. But yeah, we have a huge open, exposed area down south, and it's absolutely key that we keep harassing from it. And making as many moves as we can here. We've got this interesting, almost like a yin-yang pattern. You can see there's like this push going up up north here, and then we've got this push coming down south here. So we've got this beautiful little arrow-shaped pattern. Even the seas are kind of split in a yin-yang pattern. Well, not really, I guess. This whole map just kind of looks like it, I suppose. Ticks are running forward, but they're easily shut down by a heavy laser turret over here. Well, easily might be the wrong word. Light laser turret actually does a better job. Heavy laser turret doesn't have those fine motor controls. It's a lot better at general destruction. Yeah, SARS, they do not care about friendly fire. They just fire. They just friendly fire. Ooh, nuclear bombers are coming in here. What are they gonna go for? They're trying to figure out what they want to target. Tachyons here would be a pretty good option. Ooh. Ooh, those missiles are coming in. Yeah, we gotta spread out those bombers if we want to get anything done. These Mercuries are gonna melt them down super quickly otherwise. We didn't take out one of the Tachyons, which means that the ticks can run into the base though, and this is gonna require an immediate response. Otherwise this could go really badly, really quickly. Luckily, there was enough in order to shut down that little grouping of ticks, but those windmills are continuing to chain react back there. Luckily, these T3 units were still in place, and so we were able to shut down all of this. But wow, this single flak vehicle has actually made it into the backline. It's being really annoying back here, almost single-handedly tearing down this entire fighter wall. It can one-shot all of these fighters, especially with all the leveling that it's doing now. And yeah, it's just disassembling this fighter wall. One shot at a time, wow. Just goes to show you the power of those flak vehicles, especially against the T1 stuff. That's really nice. Yeah, suddenly the airplay is completely open for the entire blue team. Now look at that. How many Marauders is that there? 32 Marauders, a nice half a stack of Marauders coming out here to try and finish off this game. I think a nuclear bomber right into the heart of this economy for the red player would be really, really nice. Maybe into the build power here too. No anti-air here, so I think there's definitely some potential. These battleships, and even a Black Hydra here, becoming quite a nuisance. This bomber is just left idle. I'd love to see it get a little bit of value out. Ah, we have a tremor up here raining down death from above. That's quite nice. I love every time we get to see a tremor out. I think it'd do tremendous work. I pity the fool just building some metal storages here, metal containers, in order to house all the metal that they're reclaiming off the front lines, hoping to rebuild from the ashes here. But frankly, things are not looking great for the southern half of the blue team. They sort of need to win this push up north before they collapse down south. Indeed, this is enough Marauders to do it, I would think. They're pushing forward rather quickly. Yeah, the gunships are good, but the Marauders do have that anti-air attack, and when there's enough of them, they can tear down these gunships pretty quickly. Energy converters go up, and that's basically all of the metal production for this brown player. You can see their production cut down to 103 metal a second. Getting the nuke chamber is nice, but I think I'd love to see this advanced fusion reactor blow up a whole lot more. The Marauders are unfocused, though, and they're not split very well either. Yeah, this thing might actually survive. We didn't take out the build power. Wow. Really unfortunate. Uncharacteristically poor micro there. You can see the corpses of these Marauders. I mean, if we'd spread these out any amount here, that would have been so much more effective, but yeah, we just didn't. Huh. Well, luckily we have more on the way, so hopefully we're going to be able to finally burst down those advanced fusion reactors. This Tsar that was making its way downtown, going, well, kind of slow. but shooting fast as phases pass. Has not reached its destination yet. There we go. All of the advanced fusion reactors for the brown player do end up exploding right in their face. A single poison arrow has managed to sneak through over to here somehow. Tons of marauders are out and available now, and so now it has suddenly become a naval battle versus a sea battle, or naval battle versus a land battle. Somehow the tides have turned here. This star will eventually make it to somewhere important, but it's going to take a pretty long time. Karganath as well as Ashiva have finally decided to start walking in this direction. Eventually, I think they'll be able to find a nice little bit of damage to do here. The light tan player, Bear Juice, has set up another production facility here. But this should definitely be a win for the blue team. I mean, the production for red is really strong, but it's going to be overwhelmed eventually, right? We have the advanced fusion reactor here. We have the shields. That's actually really dangerous. Shields slowly being penetrated by this Black Hydra as the bullets creep ever closer to the advanced fusion reactor. Ooh, some hovercraft sneak in here. Oh, and they take out all the production for blue. That hurts so bad. Absolutely devastating. More of these hovercraft roll forward. They've basically done the damage they needed to, though. Yeah, the hovercraft before them were more than enough to cause immediate destruction to the blue player. And suddenly red has swung this from using some hovercraft, has swung this match all the way back into their favor. We have a air lab starting up here for Tangoporo. Starting up a couple of advanced metal extractors on the enemy's side. Interesting decision here. Oh, the shots are starting to slip through here. Plasma shield not able to keep up with all of this. Looks like one of them was taken down and the second one is getting really low. It's actually taking shots itself. And the advanced fusion reactor will not be long after it. Might even be before it. Shield goes down and the plasma generator, the advanced fusion reactor, does go down with it as well. Wow, red has really clawed their team out of a hole here. Still plenty of marauders, but the fact of the matter is that the blue team just has no way to siege this red player who's just got this massive facility out here in the middle of the map. Wow, who'd have thought? Yeah, you put your entire base in the middle of the ocean and nobody has any way to siege you. You can be in a really nice spot here. Nuclear bombers finally decide to address this situation, but it is far too late. The production of blue has been absolutely ravaged. Purple is next up on the chopping blocks as these halberds here completely devastate this base. Giving plenty of vision for the Black Hydra to continue firing here. Did the nuclear bombers go down? Well, they must have. Yeah, how unfortunate. The blue pair had everything within their grasp, and then they lost it all. Lost it all to their own hubris. No, they were definitely producing enough units. I think definitely the amount of marauders that we were making was sufficient. There just wasn't any way to use the marauders to effectively win this game. It basically would have come down to a Titan or a maybe Razorbacks or something like that, but really a hovercraft or aircraft or something like that. The aircraft facility going down in this backline was a really huge hit to the blue team because that was really their only main facility. Ashiva does walk over here and discovers that red has a tremendous production capability, and suddenly red has stolen this match. The blue team clutching defeat from the jaws of victory. Advanced Fusion brought back online. A bunch of these res bots here doing their best. But yeah, the blue team doesn't really stand much of a chance anymore. That being said, they're not willing to resign here. As Mango Nectar is looking at this and says, no, it's still playable. Play on. Ref didn't see it. More and more players are resigning here. Scoopdown says, alright guys. Mango Nectar calls GG. And they will eventually tap out here. Wow. I could not have seen that coming from the beginning. What an absolute back and forth. Really, really interesting stuff. And I absolutely love this map. Tempest V3. Hey, if you got an interesting game that you'd like to see cast, if you'd like to let me take a look at it, feel free to send it on over to brightworksreplays@gmail.com. And I'd be more than happy to take a look at that replay. I would love to see more games on this map, but also any of the other interesting maps. I'm always a fan of Supreme Straits, but let's see what else is out there as well. and I hope you have a tremendous rest of your day.